My name is Lois. I am 55 years old, and for 33 of those years, I have been married to Gregory. This spring, I watched our only son Leo hand the keys to our lake house to his father's mistress while looking at me like I was a stranger. He was my sunshine boy, the one who used to call every Sunday without fail. But sunshine fades, they say. And sometimes, the shadow comes from where you least expect it, from the very light you nurtured. What Leo did not know, what he could not have guessed, was that every time he pushed me away, he was playing exactly the role Gregory and I had written for him in a script we had been preparing for 2 long years. Before I share how my own son came to treat another woman like his mother, I would love to know where you are listening from today. If stories about family loyalty and secrets that change everything speak to you, please join our community here with a like and a subscribe. Your presence means more than you know. It started 2 years ago with the renovation of Gregory's real estate office. He needed a new look. He said something modern to attract younger clients. That is when Iris walked into our lives. She was 42, an interior designer with a portfolio of sleek downtown lofts. She had a way of listening that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. I remember the first time Gregory brought her home for a casual dinner. She complimented my rose garden, asked Leo thoughtful questions about his work in software development, and laughed at all of Gregory's old jokes. She fit in a little too perfectly. Leo was captivated. "Mom, you should hear Iris talk about sustainable materials," he told me a week later. "She is brilliant." It was the first time I felt a small, cold knot form in my stomach. Then came the subtle shifts. Iris recommended a new restaurant for our monthly family dinner. She just happened to have 2 extra tickets to the symphony Leo's passion and offered them to Gregory and Leo. My husband started working later, coming home with tired eyes and a short temper. The excuses were always about a difficult client or a delayed permit. I told myself I was being a jealous middle-aged woman. I tried to be gracious. The defining moment was a dinner at an expensive new fusion place downtown. Iris was there, of course, as Gregory's guest. The conversation flowed around architecture and market trends. Leo and Iris were brainstorming an app idea that merged real estate with smart home design. I pushed my food around my plate, feeling like a ghost at my own family table. Afterward, in the dimly lit hallway by the coat check, I went to retrieve my wrap. I heard Iris's voice low and honeyed from around the corner. She was talking to Gregory. "He is completely wrapped around my finger now," she said. "Just like we planned." My heart stopped. I assumed she meant Gregory. But later, lying awake in the dark, the pronoun echoed. He. Could she have meant Leo? The next morning over coffee, I asked Gregory about her. He would not meet my eyes. "Do not be jealous, Lois," he said, his voice flat. "She is good for business. And frankly, she is good for Leo too. He needs someone modern in his life." The knot in my stomach turned to stone. The changes in Leo became a tide I could not hold back. Our Saturday breakfasts, a ritual since he was in college, were canceled one after another. "He was too busy," he said. "A new project with Iris." Then he began questioning me. "Mom, why are our investments so conservative? Iris says we should be leveraging assets more aggressively." He said it casually, stirring sugar into his coffee in my kitchen. But the words were Iris's, not his. She was seeping into our home. She suggested colleges for my sister's daughter. She sent Gregory links to modern furniture, subtly criticizing our traditional style. The lake house, my sanctuary, was not spared. "It looks so dated," Lois Leo mentioned one evening. Iris could do wonders with the space. The breaking point came on a Sunday phone call. "Mom," he said, his voice strained. "I have been thinking. Maybe you and Dad should live separately for a while. You just seem so unhappy together. It would be healthier." I held the phone so tightly my knuckles ached. I asked if that was what he truly wanted, or if it was what Iris wanted. He got defensive. Why do you have to make everything about her? She only wants what is best for us. For me. That night, I began a journal. I wrote down every comment, every interaction, every slight shift. I was collecting evidence, but I did not yet know who the evidence was for. Then one night, after Leo had gone back to his apartment, Gregory came into my bedroom. He closed the door softly and sat on the edge of the bed. His shoulders, usually so straight, were slumped. In the moonlight, he looked every one of his 58 years. "It is time, Lois," he said, his voice a ragged whisper. "She is making her move on Leo just like we suspected." And then he told me everything. 2 years ago, a rival developer, a man named Corrigan, whom Gregory had bested in several bids, had planted Iris in his firm. Her job was not just to steal client lists. It was to dismantle our family from the inside, to get to Leo, the heir apparent, and use him to gain control of assets. Gregory had discovered her emails to Corrigan early on. "Instead of firing her, we decided to play along," he explained. "We had to let her believe she was succeeding. We had to make Leo believe it too, so he would see her for what she is. We hired a private investigator." The report was chilling. Iris had done this before. She specialized in attaching herself to successful older men, bonding with their children, and creating divides that ended in lucrative settlements or business coups. She was a predator. My relief that Gregory's heart was not truly with her was swallowed by a profound, aching dread. Our plan was already in motion. Gregory would publicly grow closer to Iris. I would become the jealous, bitter wife resisting the inevitable. We would push Leo to choose a side, knowing her manipulation would pull him to hers. It was a horrible, calculated gamble, with our son's heart as the stakes. I looked at our wedding photo on the dresser. "Forgive me, Leo," I thought. "This is the only way to save you from her." 2 months later, Gregory packed a suitcase. "I am moving into the city for a while," he announced coldly in front of Leo. "It is better this way." Leo helped him load the car, his jaw set. He would not look at me. Gregory moved into a luxury apartment downtown, one Iris had conveniently helped him find. The public performance began. I played my part. I called Leo crying. I begged him to talk to his father. I sent long, rambling emails about loyalty and family. With each performance, Leo retreated further. "She is making you hysterical, Mom," he said during one call, his tone icy. "Dad has a right to happiness. You have been holding him back for years." Iris's influence became official. Gregory gave her a vice president title at the firm. She started suggesting strategic shifts, including transferring a small but symbolic portion of his company shares to Leo. "For his future," she said sweetly, "to give him a real stake." It was a move to make Leo feel indebted, to bind him tighter to her circle. Then came the birthday party, Gregory's 59th. Iris threw a lavish event at a trendy art gallery. I was not invited, but I showed up anyway, wearing an old dress of mine that Gregory once loved. I made a scene. I accused Iris of being a gold digger. I pleaded with Gregory to come home. It was not entirely acting. The pain of seeing my son standing beside them, his arm around Iris's shoulders in a protective gesture, was brutally real. Leo's face was a mask of embarrassment and fury. He stepped toward me. "Why cannot you just let him be happy?" he shouted, his voice cutting through the cocktail chatter. "Look at yourselves." The gallery fell silent. I turned and fled, their stunned faces burning in my vision. It was the lowest point, and it was exactly what our plan required. A week after the party, while Gregory and Iris were at a real estate conference, I used the spare key Gregory had left under a planter. I let myself into Iris's penthouse apartment. It was sterile and beautiful, like a magazine spread. In a locked desk drawer, hidden beneath financial statements, I found a leather-bound notebook. My hands trembled as I flipped through it. It was not just notes. It was a blueprint. Pages detailed a timeline, drive wedge between Elle and Mother. Solidify Elle's allegiance. Suggest psychological evaluation for Elle's mother citing erratic behavior. Petition for financial control via L. One page was a crude flowchart ending with company assets under L's My Control. She was not just after a settlement. She was planning to have Leo declared necessary to manage my affairs, citing instability, and through him, she would control everything. I took photos of every page with my phone, my breath coming in short gasps. That night, I called Gregory from a payphone. "She is moving faster than we thought," I whispered. "We need to accelerate our timeline." He was quiet for a long moment. "Set the meeting," he finally said. The next morning, an email from a law firm appeared in my inbox. It was from Leo's new lawyer, one Iris had recommended. Attached was a draft separation agreement heavily favoring Gregory and a politely worded suggestion that I seek independent legal counsel. At the bottom was a personal note from Leo. "Mom, this is for everyone's good. Please do not make this harder than it needs to be." I printed the email. I held the warm paper in my hands and cried for the son who wrote it, the boy who was gone, and the man we were trying to bring back home. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. at the offices of Henderson and Lowe, our family's attorneys for 3 generations. Only old Mr. Henderson knew the full truth. Gregory and I arrived separately. I wore a simple navy suit, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. Gregory looked weary but resolute. Leo arrived with Iris. She was dressed in a sharp cream-colored pantsuit, a smile of polite triumph on her face. Leo would not meet my eyes. He pulled out a chair for her before sitting down himself. Mr. Henderson cleared his throat. "We are here today to discuss the terms of a marital separation agreement." He began, his voice neutral. "I have the documents Lois has agreed to review." Iris leaned forward slightly. "That is wonderful," she said, her voice soothing. "This must be so difficult for everyone." Gregory held up a hand. "Before we look at anything, there is something you both need to see." He nodded to Mr. Henderson, who dimmed the lights and activated a screen on the wall. The first image was a photograph of a page from the leather notebook. Leo squinted. "What is this?" The next slide was a series of financial records showing transfers from an offshore account to one in Iris's name, with memos referencing Corrigan developments. Iris's smile froze. Then came the private investigator's summary, a list of aliases, previous targets, and civil suits that had been settled out of court. Leo's face grew pale. The final piece was an audio file. Mr. Henderson pressed play. Iris's voice, clear and contemptuous, filled the room. "He is so naive," she was saying to someone, a female friend. "A perfect little puppet. Once I get the mother declared incompetent, Leo will sign anything I put in front of him. He actually thinks I like his terrible taste in music." A soft, cruel laugh. The recording ended. In the silence, you could hear the hum of the projector. Leo turned very slowly to look at Iris. His mouth was slightly open. Is any of this true?" His voice was barely a whisper. Iris shot up from her chair, her composure shattered. "This is a disgusting setup," she shrieked, pointing at Gregory and me. "They are pathological liars. They fabricated all of this because they cannot stand that Gregory is finally happy." She turned to Leo, her eyes pleading now. "Leo, you know me. You know what we have built. This is their last desperate attempt to control you." Leo was staring at the frozen image on the screen, the flowchart with his name at the center. Gregory spoke, his voice heavy and calm. "For the last 2 years, your mother and I have been acting. We knew what Iris was from the beginning. We let this play out so you would see her true colors, Leo. So you would be protected. We thought if we just told you, you would not believe us." She had already gotten too close. Leo looked from his father to me, his eyes wide with a hurricane of emotions: betrayal, horror, dawning, understanding, and a profound, gut-wrenching shame. Iris grabbed his arm. "Leo, do not listen to them." He pulled his arm away, as if her touch burned. "The recording," he said, his voice cracking. "I heard my own voice. You were laughing about me. You were laughing." He stood up his chair, scraping loudly against the floor. He looked at me, then really looked at me for the first time in a year. I saw the little boy who used to run to me with skinned knees. I saw the man who had handed keys to a stranger. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then he turned and walked out of the room, leaving Iris standing alone in the center of a truth that had just exploded her world. In the days that followed, the practical matters were handled swiftly. Gregory had Iris removed from the company and served with a restraining order. All the evidence was handed over to the authorities. The scandal was kept quiet, but Iris disappeared from our city, likely to some other unsuspecting family in another state. But the real wreckage was inside our home. Leo vanished. His phone went straight to voicemail. His apartment was empty. For 2 weeks, Gregory and I lived in a silent, shared agony. We had won, and it felt like a crushing defeat. "We broke him to save him," Gregory said one night, his head in his hands. I just sat beside him, staring at the wall, wondering if our son would ever come back. Then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, I found him. He was sitting on the front porch steps, soaked through, just like he did when he was 16, after a fight with his girlfriend. He looked up as I opened the door. He was thinner shadows under his eyes. "Can I come in?" he asked, his voice hoarse. I stepped aside, my heart pounding. We sat in the kitchen, the same place where he had criticized my investments. I made tea. He held the mug, but did not drink. "I am sorry," he began, the words rushing out. "I am so sorry for what I said, for what I did. I was an idiot, a proud, stupid idiot. I let her flatter me. She made me feel smart, like I was finally an equal. I stopped him. I told him his apology was not what I needed. What I needed was for him to know how sorry we were. We were desperate, Leo. We saw her sinking her claws into you, and we panicked. The plan was flawed. We hurt you to protect you, and that is a parent's worst failure." He was quiet for a long time. "You both lied to me for 2 years, he finally said, his anger surfacing. "You let me become that person. You let me hurt you. How do I trust anything now?" I did not have a good answer. I told him I did not know. I told him trust would have to be rebuilt word by word, action by action, and that we would be there for every slow, painful step of it if he let us. Then he told me what he had been doing for those 2 weeks. He had tracked down one of Iris's previous targets, a man in his 60s in a neighboring state, whose relationship with his daughter was still fractured. Leo had listened to the man's story, a mirror of his own. He had started seeing a therapist. "I understand why you did it," Leo said, setting his mug down. "I do not know if I can forgive how you did it, but I am here." He stood up, walked around the table, and put his arms around me. It was a stiff, uncertain hug at first, but then he held on tight. I buried my face in his damp shirt and wept. Healing did not happen all at once. There was no magic fix. Gregory and I started real marriage counseling to address the real cracks that had existed long before Iris, the ones we had used as set dressing for our play. Leo continued his therapy. We began having family dinners again, but they were different. We talked about hard things. We listened. Sometimes we argued, but we stayed at the table. One of the first joint decisions we made was about the lake house. I could not go back there. The memory of Leo handing Iris those keys was etched into every board. We sold it. With the money, I established a scholarship fund in our family name for students studying forensic psychology or financial fraud, specifically focusing on familial manipulation. Leo asked to be involved. He used his tech skills to build a simple, clean website for the fund, a place where people could share stories and find resources. It was his way of making something good out of the mess. Gregory began stepping back from the day-to-day of the company, promoting a long-time trustworthy employee to take over more. He spent more time at home, not just in the house, but present. We took long walks. We relearned how to talk without a script. On Thanksgiving, a year after the meeting in Mr. Henderson's office, we were all in the kitchen. Leo was tasked with mashing the potatoes. Gregory was wrestling with the turkey. I was making the pie. It was chaotic and normal. Before we ate, Leo raised his glass of cider. His hand shook a little. To my parents, he said, his voice steadying, who loved me enough to break my heart to save it. I am still putting it back together, but I am doing it here with you. We clinked our glasses, the sound of fragile, beautiful music in the warm room. Now I sit on our back porch. The tulips are blooming again, a riot of red and yellow against the green. Gregory and Leo planted these bulbs together last fall, kneeling in the dirt, arguing good-naturedly about spacing. I watch the bees move from bloom to bloom, and I think about the cost of our cleverness. We thought we were being strategic. We thought we could outmaneuver a predator by becoming actors in our own lives. And in a narrow sense, we succeeded. We saved our assets. We saved our son from her. But the cost was a year of our lives spent in a lie, and our son's trust shattered like glass on a hard floor. I learned that you cannot fight poison with poison. You end up poisoning yourself. The real victory was not in the exposed plot or the legal restraining order. It was in the months that followed, sitting in the uncomfortable silence with my son, not with clever answers or justifications, but with a raw willingness to hear his pain. It was realizing that protecting someone you love can sometimes mean you have to be the villain in their story for a while, and having the courage to accept that role without ever demanding their gratitude for it. Letting go of the need for Leo to fully forgive and forget was my true liberation. Our relationship is not what it was before Iris entered our lives. It can never be that again. It is something new now. It has scars we can both see and feel, and we are learning not to look away from them. Family is not a fortress you build to keep the world out. It is a garden you tend every single day, knowing storms will come, knowing sometimes you will make terrible mistakes with the pruning. But if the roots are deep enough in love and a commitment to real, messy truth, not the kind of theatrical truth we performed, but the difficult truth of admitting our own fear and failure, then it will grow again. Maybe not in the shape you first envisioned. Maybe with branches that grow in unexpected directions. But it will grow. And as for my son, who once looked at me like a stranger across a room full of broken trust, now he looks at me like someone he is still learning to know again. And perhaps that is the most honest beginning we could ever have. If this story made you think about the lengths we go to for family, I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to make an impossible choice to protect someone you love? What does rebuilding trust look like in your life? Please share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences might help someone else feeling alone. If this resonated with you, please give this video a like. It helps more people find these conversations. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about navigating life's complicated relationships with courage and grace. And if you know someone who might need to hear this today, please share it with them. Thank you for listening, for being part of this community, and for tending to your own gardens with such care. However your family is shaped, may its roots grow deep.